So this is like a quick little tutorial on just texturing in Blender. So say you have a model, right? And you have your method I used to make this model was I would just take a bunch of photos from Google Images. We can look at this, and I would use like Texture Ripper or whatever tool there is, and just rip the textures off of Google, whatever like copyright free stuff I could find, and use the UVs of the model to basically just go through the texture and just apply it to all these faces here. But issue is when you're trying to do any kind of like modifying to the textures, making drawing or painting or adding special maps to the textures like normals or ambient occlusion and stuff. It's a lot more. It's a lot more difficult. So see here, how whenever I paint on this side, you'd expect it just to stay on here on this side, right? But it's actually painting on other parts of the model, which is not really what we want if we're trying to add details. Like you wanted to add graffiti or something here, can't be doing that if it's going to affect that part of the model. So how do you get around that? Also, just to show here, it's a lot easier to do, use models that have unique UVs and software like Substance Painter. But I'll go back and we'll just go back here. So this method works with models that have different materials, different textures, a bunch of different models, a bunch of different objects making up that whole model. So the first thing you need to do is let's go through your model and make sure that there are no linked duplicates. So I'll go to layout real quick, bam. And the plugin I'm using is to do this navigation is right click mouse navigation. It's really awesome. Good for if you're jumping in between game engine and Blender a lot. These controls, honestly, I hate the standard controls that every 3D software tries to use, but it's aside the point. So right click every object and go to, I believe it's under relations, make single user and object and data. You can also do materials, but it don't really matter because we're gonna change that anyway. So object relations, single user, object and data. Should get most of those issues out the way. So what we need to do is we'll go and select all these objects, make sure there's we need to add a UV map, so I'll just remove this one I added it to, and we'll add a second UV map. So right now Blender will just use whatever so Blender uses whatever UV map is selected here. So we'll go to UV editing and go back to object data, take a look at the UV maps. You can edit different UV maps basically, and what's good about that is we can do our baking to this new UV map, which will be completely separate from the original one. So you can leave the original one there. Also, another thing I'd suggest, make a backup of your original file just so you can go back to it if needed, because it's really hard to go back to where you were before after you do this method. So just keep that in mind. So we'll go over, let me exit edit mode. Go back here, bam, bam. Looks like I already added all these UV maps, big brain, bam. And then I'll just add all these UV maps really quick. There's a lot of items here. Alright, and so now we need to go through all the materials in the project. So bam. And we're gonna make a new material, and well, actually, first not even do that yet. We'll need to go to the shading workspace and go here, bam. Go through this material, and now you wanna go image, texture, image texture. We're gonna make a new texture here. I guess I'll make this 2048 by 2048. It's a nice round exponent of 2. Bam. And new image. We'll call this baked textures. Bam. Looks good. And take a look at this here. So we got this here. And so what we want to do is copy this, and then we'll go into our other materials, and whatever materials you have, bam, add this here, select it, make sure it's selected, because that'll be very important when we're trying to get things working later. Okay, select this. And then now what we can do is we're gonna have to switch to cycles. It makes things easier. And I use GPU compute. Forgot not viewport render. I'll just set the samples to 1 because it really doesn't matter for this here. Because it's all, I mean, there's no real reason to even need the ray tracing crap. So we'll go here and take a look at some baked textures things here. So we're going to do our baking here, but we'll come back to this in a bit. One more thing to do. So now that we have those UVs selected, and thing I forgot to mention is whenever you make those new UVs, it will copy your previous UVs that you're using for whatever current map you have. So in this case, it just stays exactly the same, and should for you too. But anyways, we're gonna go and we're gonna hit A, select all the items. I'll switch to the UV editing workspace. Do that again. A. Let me go back in object mode. It'll probably be the move. So object mode, select all your items, then go to edit mode. Then we're gonna hit A again, select all the faces here, and you know, a little wonky. So see how everything's overlapping right now? We really do not want that. So we'll go and for most cases, honestly, you can just do Smart UV Project, because it'll take care of a lot of it for you. You can do the UVs manually, but honestly, if you're doing the method where you're just taking a bunch of random textures off the internet, it's really not it's not gonna save you a lot of time to do this. So I would just Smart UV Project. It's a lot easier. Bam. And notice how it doesn't really affect the model. It's because it's a separate UV map, so good thing. And right now, it's just previewing over that previous texture, but luckily now everything's in its own little box. Everything kind of doesn't really overlap or anything, so it's good. And then now we're gonna actually go to that baking part. So we'll go there. Let's switch back over to shading, and then we'll set our bake type to diffuse. So diffuse is basically just your your color texture, which is all this stuff here. Go direct, indirect. That just removes the direct and indirect lighting. If you want to have baked lighting in your model, I mean, I guess you can do that. For this specific one, we're not really interested in that. So we'll do that, and then we'll hit bake. And then now it's just baking everything. Right, and most of it's pretty much baked. I think it looks fine. There are a few issues. We can a lot of it has to do with scaling. Anyways, what we can do now is there are a few issues with it, but I'll go past that. So now let's just save this texture. I'll go and save it. Bam. Oh yeah. Forgot how to do that. Image. Go to image, then hit save as, and guess we can go here. Do this bake textures.png. I think that's a good one. I'll go back to this art pass folder and add it here. Give my spelling. Damn. All right, and so we'll go from. So now we need to make the model use these actual textures. So let's go here. Go back to the data tab and switch. What you can do is you can switch it to use that for rendering, but I'm just gonna delete this UV map and make it delete the original UV map and make my generated one the main one, just because it makes it easier for external programs to work with it, because Blender doesn't really export that information that well. So just remove all those other UV maps here. Now we just set everything to use those new UV maps. And so now the best thing to do is just make a new material, and we'll call this one, let's see, make a new material, call it baked textures. There we go. And we'll make it use the, let's go there, make it use this, this here. And go here. And then we'll remove this material, and we'll set everything else, all the, we need to set all the materials in this, in the scene to just be using that baked textures one. So we'll go here, delete this, baked textures, and just keep going through, do all of them, and I'll Alright, so it's close to how it should be. These do need a little bit of do-over, but I'm not really worried about that here. So save the project, and now that everything's using the same material, we can go here, export, and then I'll enable texture tutorial. Add that here, and now we can import it into external programs. So make a new project in Substance, and I'll set this one to 2048. Select my new one, copy it from Artdeno, Blender. Go here, set the normal map to GL. Save that project. Now, as you can see, it looks pretty much almost exactly the same as it was before. Some minor issues here, but the cool thing about what we have now is, notice that issue before where it would apply to parts of the model that it wasn't really supposed to. Well, now thankfully, because of this, we can just paint on any part of the model. So we can pretty much just do our export it to whatever program we want. It's all in one big material instead of a bunch of different ones, so it's easier to move your model between programs if you have a bunch of different texture maps. So yeah, it just makes things a lot easier. So thank you for watching. This isn't really for everybody to see, but I may as well post it just to make things easier myself. But yeah.